There is a quiet kind of exhaustion that lives in the hearts of those who worry about everything. It is not always loud, not always visible, but it sits in the chest like a heavy stone, pressing down on joy, dimming the light of each new day before it even begins. You wake up, and before your feet touch the ground, your mind has already traveled to a dozen places where things might go wrong. You replay conversations that haven't happened yet, fear outcomes that may never come, and carry burdens that were never yours to hold. But listen closely, life was never meant to be lived that way. There is a rhythm to life, a gentle unfolding that asks you to trust it, to move with it, not against it. Worrying about everything is like standing in the middle of a flowing river and trying to stop the current with your bare hands. It will exhaust you, overwhelm you, and still the water will move as it always has. You cannot control every twist and turn, every rise and fall. But you can choose how you stand within it. You can choose whether to fight the current or to learn how to float. Happiness is not a distant destination waiting for you at the end of a perfectly controlled life. It is not reserved for the moment when all problems are solved, when all uncertainties disappear, when everything finally makes sense. Happiness is here, in this moment, quietly waiting for you to notice it. It is in the warmth of sunlight touching your face, in the laughter that escapes you when you least expect it, in the simple act of breathing deeply and realizing you are still here. You do not need to fix everything to feel peace. You do not need to understand everything to feel joy. You do not need to hold the weight of the entire world to prove that you care. Worry often disguises itself as responsibility. It tells you that if you think hard enough, long enough, deeply enough, you can prevent pain, avoid failure, and control outcomes. But worry is not wisdom. It is not preparation. It is not protection. It is a thief, quietly stealing your present while promising you a safer future it cannot guarantee. Think about how many moments have slipped through your fingers because your mind was somewhere else. How many smiles you did not fully feel, how many opportunities you did not fully embrace, how many days you rushed through because you were too busy fearing tomorrow. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still capable of beginning again. There is a freedom that comes when you realize that not everything requires your worry. Some things will unfold without your interference. Some answers will come without your constant searching. Some storms will pass whether you spend your nights fearing them or not. And there is power in letting go. Let go of the need to control every outcome. Let go of the belief that your worth is tied to how much you carry. Let go of the habit of expecting the worst before anything has even begun. You were not created to live in constant tension, always bracing for impact. You were created to experience life in its fullness, the beauty and the uncertainty, the joy and the challenge, the light and the shadow. To be happy every day does not mean that every day will be perfect. It does not mean that pain will never visit you, or that difficulties will disappear. It means that even in the presence of those things, you choose not to surrender your entire being to them. You allow yourself to feel what is real without allowing it to define your entire existence. There is a difference between acknowledging life's challenges and living as though those challenges are all there is. When you begin to release worry, you make space. Space for clarity, for creativity, for peace. You begin to see that not everything deserves your attention. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every fear deserves your energy. You can learn to pause. When your mind begins to race, when your heart begins to tighten, take a moment. Breathe deeply. Feel the air fill your lungs and leave your body. In that simple act, there is a reminder. You are here. Not in yesterday's regrets, not in tomorrow's uncertainties, but here, in this moment that is real and alive and yours. Ask yourself gently, is this worry helping me right now? And if the answer is no, allow yourself to release it. even if only for a moment. You do not have to hold on to every thought that enters your mind. You have the power to choose which ones you give your attention to. There is strength in that choice. And as you practice it day by day, moment by moment, something begins to shift. The weight becomes lighter. The noise becomes quieter. The world does not change, but your experience of it does. You begin to notice things you once overlooked, the kindness in a stranger's eyes, the comfort in a familiar place, the quiet beauty of ordinary moments. You begin to understand that happiness is not something you chase. It is something you allow. You allow yourself to laugh without guilt. You allow yourself to rest without feeling undeserving. You allow yourself to be present without constantly reaching for what comes next. And slowly, gently, life begins to feel different. Not because everything has been solved, but because you are no longer trying to solve everything at once. There will still be days when worry returns, when old habits resurface, when fear tries to reclaim its space. But you will recognize it now. You will see it for what it is, a pattern, not a truth. And you will have the tools to respond differently. You will breathe. You will pause. You will remind yourself that you have faced difficult moments before and found your way through them. You will remember that uncertainty is a part of life, not a sign that something is wrong. And in that remembering, you will find your strength again. Happiness is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing how you meet it. It is about deciding that no matter what comes your way, you will not abandon yourself. You will not let worry consume you. You will not let fear steal every ounce of your peace. You deserve to feel joy, not just occasionally, but daily. You deserve to wake up without the immediate weight of everything that could go wrong. You deserve to experience life as something more than a series of problems to solve. And it begins with a simple decision to stop worrying about everything. Not all at once, not perfectly, but intentionally. You begin by noticing when you are carrying more than you need to. You begin by questioning the thoughts that tell you everything must be controlled. You begin by allowing yourself to rest in the understanding that you are doing enough. That you are enough, even when things are uncertain. Because life is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be present. To be here in this moment, fully alive, fully aware, fully open to whatever comes next. There is a quiet joy in that presence, a steady, grounded kind of happiness that does not depend on circumstances being ideal. It comes from within, from the way you choose to see the world, from the way you choose to treat yourself. You are not your worries. You are not your fears. You are not the endless stream of what-ifs that pass through your mind. You are something deeper, something steadier, something far more resilient than you often give yourself credit for. And when you begin to connect with that part of yourself, when you begin to trust it, you realize that you do not need to hold on so tightly to everything else. You can let life unfold. You can meet each day with a sense of openness rather than dread. You can find reasons to smile even in the smallest of moments. And over time, those small moments add up. They become a way of living, a way of being that feels lighter, freer, more aligned with who you truly are. Stop worrying about everything, not because life is easy, but because you deserve peace. Be happy every day, not because every day is perfect, but because every day holds something worth noticing, something worth appreciating, something worth feeling. Give yourself permission to live that way. Give yourself permission to breathe. Give yourself permission to let go. And watch how your world begins to change, not in grand, dramatic ways, but in the quiet, meaningful shifts that make life feel softer, kinder, more manageable. This is your life, not tomorrow's, not yesterday's, but this one, right here, right now. And it is waiting for you to stop worrying long enough to truly live it. Trust that you can handle what comes instead of fearing what might come. This idea sounds simple, but it carries a debt that can transform the way you move through life. Most of the anxiety you feel is not born from what is actually happening, but from what you imagine could happen. Your mind travels ahead of you, creating scenarios filled with uncertainty, difficulty, and pain, and before anything even unfolds, you are already tired, already overwhelmed, already convinced that you are not ready. Fear lives in the future. It whispers about possibilities that have not yet taken shape, and it presents them as if they are already real. It paints pictures of failure, rejection, loss, and disappointment, and it does so with such intensity that your body begins to respond as though those things are happening now. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and your confidence begins to shrink. You start to doubt your ability to cope, to adapt, to survive what lies ahead. But if you pause and look back, you will see a different story. There were moments in your life when things felt uncertain, when you did not know how you would get through, when the weight of the situation felt too heavy to carry, and yet you found a way. You made decisions, you adjusted, you endured, and you kept moving forward. You may not have done it perfectly, and it may not have been easy, but you did it. That truth matters more than the fears your mind creates. The problem is not that you lack strength. The problem is that you forget your strength when you face the unknown. Each new challenge feels like a test you are unprepared for, even though you have passed countless tests before. You treat every uncertain moment as if it is entirely new, as if you have no experience, no resilience, no inner resources to draw from. In doing so, you overlook the evidence of your own life. Trusting yourself does not mean you believe everything will go exactly as planned. It means you believe that no matter what happens, you will respond, you will adapt, and you will find a way through. It is a quiet confidence, not loud or boastful, but steady and grounding. It allows you to step into uncertainty without being consumed by it. Fear tries to convince you that you need all the answers before you begin. It tells you that you must predict every outcome, prepare for every possibility, and eliminate every risk. But that is not how life works. Life unfolds in moments, not in perfectly controlled sequences. You cannot see the entire path from the beginning, and you do not need to. You only need to take the next step, and then the next, trusting that you will handle what arises along the way. When you choose trust over fear, something begins to shift within you. The tension eases. The constant need to control every detail starts to loosen its grip. You begin to feel a sense of openness instead of resistance. Challenges no longer appear as threats that must be avoided at all costs, but as experiences that you are capable of navigating. This does not mean fear disappears completely. It will still visit you, especially in moments of change or uncertainty. But instead of allowing it to take control, you learn to observe it. You recognize it as a thought, a reaction, not an absolute truth. You can acknowledge its presence without surrendering to it. In those moments, remind yourself of what you have already overcome. Think of the times when you doubted yourself but still found a way forward. Think of the obstacles that once seemed impossible but are now part of your past. Those experiences are proof of your resilience. They are evidence that you are capable even when you feel uncertain. Trust is built through action. Each time you move forward despite fear, you strengthen your belief in yourself. Each time you face something difficult and come through it, you add to your foundation of confidence. Over time, this creates a shift in how you see yourself. You no longer view yourself as someone who might break under pressure, but as someone who can bend, adjust, and continue. You do not need to be fearless to live fully. You only need to be willing to move forward while fear is present. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. And that decision becomes easier when you trust that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. The future will always hold unknowns. There will always be situations you cannot predict, outcomes you cannot control, and moments that challenge you. But those unknowns are not evidence that something is wrong. They are simply a part of being alive. When you stop treating uncertainty as a danger, you begin to experience it as a space for growth, discovery, and possibility. You are not meant to have everything figured out. You are meant to learn as you go, to adapt as things change, to grow through your experiences. Trusting yourself allows you to engage with life in this way. It frees you from the pressure of needing certainty before you take action. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" begin to ask, "What if I can handle it?" That single shift in perspective changes the way your mind responds. It replaces helplessness with capability, fear with strength. It reminds you that you are not powerless in the face of the unknown. Your mind may still try to pull you back into old patterns of worry. It may present you with worst-case scenarios, urging you to prepare for every possible outcome. When this happens, gently bring your focus back to the present moment. Ground yourself in what is real, what is happening now, rather than what might happen later. There is a certain peace that comes from this way of thinking. It is not the peace of having everything under control, but the peace of knowing that you do not need to control everything to be okay. It is the understanding that you are enough, just as you are, to meet whatever comes. You have within you a quiet strength that does not need constant reassurance. It has carried you this far, even when you were not fully aware of it. It continues to support you in ways you may not always recognize. When you begin to trust that strength, you allow it to guide you instead of being overshadowed by fear. Life becomes lighter when you stop trying to predict every outcome. It becomes more open, more fluid, more aligned with the present moment. You start to notice opportunities where you once saw only risks. You begin to move with more ease, more confidence, more willingness to engage with what is in front of you. You are capable of more than your fears suggest. You are stronger than the doubts that cross your mind. You are more prepared than you feel in moments of uncertainty. And when you begin to trust that truth, you create a foundation that allows you to face the future with steadiness instead of fear. A quiet mind creates a joyful life. Protect your inner silence. There is a kind of silence that is not empty, not lonely, not distant, but deeply alive. It is the silence within you that does not depend on the absence of noise around you, but on the calm you cultivate inside yourself. In a world that constantly demands your attention, that pulls you in different directions, that fills your thoughts with endless opinions, comparisons, and expectations, your inner silence becomes one of the most valuable things you can protect. Most people do not realize how loud their minds have become. From the moment they wake up, thoughts begin to rush in, things to do, things to worry about, things to fix, things to regret. The mind jumps from one idea to another without pause, creating a constant stream of noise that leaves little room for clarity or peace. This noise does not always sound chaotic. Sometimes it appears as planning, analyzing, or even overthinking situations that have not yet happened. But no matter how it shows up, it drains your energy and disconnects you from the present moment. A quiet mind is not a mind without thoughts. It is a mind that is not controlled by them. It is a mind that can observe without reacting immediately, that can pause before creating unnecessary stories, that can rest without feeling the need to fill every space with mental activity. When your mind becomes quieter, your life begins to feel lighter. You start to notice the difference between what truly matters and what is simply noise. Protecting your inner silence means becoming aware of what you allow into your mental space. Every conversation, every piece of information, every interaction has an effect on your mind. When you constantly expose yourself to negativity, to drama, to endless comparison, your mind absorbs it. It becomes harder to find peace because your thoughts are no longer your own. They are shaped by everything you have taken in. This is why protecting your silence is not only about being physically quiet, but about being intentional with your attention. You do not have to engage with every opinion. You do not have to respond to every message immediately. You do not have to carry every problem that is presented to you. There is strength in choosing what deserves your energy and what does not. There is wisdom in stepping back from situations that disturb your peace, even if others expect you to stay involved. Your inner silence is not something to be sacrificed for the sake of constant availability. When you begin to protect your inner space, you may notice resistance from both yourself and others. Your mind is used to being busy, used to filling every moment with thought. At first, stillness may feel uncomfortable. You may feel the urge to reach for distractions, to check your phone, to occupy your time with something, anything, to avoid the quiet. But if you allow yourself to sit with that discomfort, you will begin to understand it. Beneath the restlessness, there is a deeper calm waiting to be discovered. In that calm, you start to reconnect with yourself. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly, not the ones shaped by fear or pressure, but the ones that come from a place of honesty and truth. You begin to understand what you truly feel, what you truly want, what truly matters to you. This clarity is not something you can force. It emerges naturally when your mind is no longer crowded. A quiet mind allows you to respond to life instead of reacting to it. When something challenging happens, instead of immediately jumping to conclusions or worst-case scenarios, you create a space between the event and your response. In that space, there is choice. You can choose how you want to think, how you want to feel, how you want to act. This ability to pause changes everything. It prevents unnecessary conflict, reduces stress, and allows you to move through situations with greater awareness. Joy does not come from having a perfect life. It comes from having a mind that is not constantly at war with itself. When your thoughts are calmer, your experience of life becomes more peaceful. You begin to appreciate small moments that once went unnoticed, the sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight, the stillness of a quiet evening. These moments were always there, but a busy mind could not fully experience them. Protecting your inner silence also means letting go of the need to constantly explain yourself. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every action needs to be justified. When you are secure within yourself, you do not feel the need to fill every silence with words. You become comfortable with pauses, with stillness, with simply being. This quiet confidence is powerful. It allows you to move through life with a sense of ease rather than pressure. There will always be external noise. The world will not become quieter just because you decide to protect your peace. People will continue to have opinions. Situations will continue to arise. Responsibilities will still exist. But your experience of these things can change. You can choose not to internalize everything. You can choose to let certain things pass through your awareness without holding on to them. This is not about detaching from life completely. It is about engaging with life in a healthier way. It is about being present without being overwhelmed, aware without being consumed. When you protect your inner silence, you create a boundary between yourself and the chaos around you. You allow yourself to participate in the world without losing your center. Your inner silence is also closely connected to your emotional well-being. When your mind is constantly busy, your emotions can become heightened and unstable. Small issues can feel overwhelming because there is no space to process them properly. But when your mind is quieter, you can observe your emotions without being controlled by them. You can feel sadness without being lost in it, experience frustration without letting it take over, and find your way back to balance more easily. This balance does not mean you will never feel negative emotions. It means those emotions will not define your entire experience. They will come and go, as all things do, while you remain grounded in a deeper sense of calm. This is the foundation of a joyful life, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of inner stability. To protect your inner silence, you must also learn the value of rest. Not just physical rest, but mental and emotional rest. Give yourself permission to step away from constant stimulation. Spend time without consuming information, without seeking distraction, without trying to be productive every moment. In these periods of rest, your mind resets. It releases what it does not need and makes space for what truly matters. There is also a certain discipline required to maintain this silence. It is easy to fall back into old patterns of overthinking, worrying and reacting. But each time you become aware of it, you have an opportunity to choose differently. You can bring your attention back to the present, back to your breath, back to a place of calm. This practice strengthens over time, making it easier to return to stillness even in the midst of chaos. A quiet mind does not make you passive, it makes you powerful. It allows you to think more clearly, act more intentionally, and live more fully. It removes the unnecessary weight that comes from constant mental noise, and replaces it with a sense of lightness and freedom. You are no longer trapped in endless cycles of thought. You are able to step outside of them and see things as they truly are. Protecting your inner silence is one of the greatest acts of self-respect. It is a way of saying that your peace matters, that your well-being is important, that you deserve to experience life without constant mental strain. It is a commitment to yourself to live in a way that supports your happiness rather than undermines it. When you honor this silence, you begin to notice how much of your previous stress was unnecessary. You see how often your mind created problems that did not exist, how often you carried worries that never became reality, how often you allowed external noise to dictate your internal state. This awareness does not come with judgment, but with understanding. You learn from it, and you move forward with greater intention. Over time, this way of living becomes natural. You no longer have to force yourself to be calm. It becomes your default state. You move through your days with a sense of ease, not because everything is perfect, but because your mind is no longer working against you. You are able to experience life more directly, more fully, without the constant filter of overthinking. And in that quiet, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel a deeper connection to yourself, to others, to the world around you. Your interactions become more meaningful because you are truly present. Your thoughts become more purposeful because they are not lost in noise. Your emotions become more balanced because they are not constantly amplified by a busy mind. This is where joy begins to grow, not in loud, overwhelming bursts, but in a steady, gentle presence that stays with you. It is the kind of joy that does not depend on circumstances, that does not disappear when challenges arise, that remains even in difficult moments because it is rooted within you. Protect your inner silence, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Guard it in the same way you would protect something precious, because it is the foundation of your peace, your clarity, and your happiness. Let it guide you, support you, and remind you that within you, there is always a place of calm waiting to be returned to, a place where your mind can rest and your spirit can feel free, a place untouched by the noise of the world, where you can simply be, without pressure, without fear, without the constant need to think, to prove, to control, to explain. And in that space you begin to understand that everything you have been searching for has always been closer than you realized. Not in the outside world, not in endless striving, but in the quiet you were once afraid to embrace, now becoming the very thing that holds you steady as life continues to unfold around you.